When I told you about that song with Pun, right? Um, it wasn't the first time that it wasn't the first time that I heard it. Like it was the first time I listened. You know what I'm saying? Like I
Actually,
listened
I
to
I
that
know what
heavily.
you're saying, but clarify the difference for the people.
So like hearing something is like just I'm hearing it and I'm catching it onto the parts that I like, right? So like it might be a movie like Space Jam or something, and we listen to the Space Jam song, and I hear the whole song, but the only part I'm singing is "Everybody Get Up, It's Time to Sleep," because that was what caught my ear, right? So in other words, I'm not listening to the words and what he's actually saying and how it's put together. My mind wasn't that developed yet. Where once I listened to it, when my mind was developed enough to process what the fuck he was saying, I'm like, wow, you know what I mean? Um, and that was probably like I would say like 2000, 2001 ish. Um, I was a freshman in high school, and yeah, no, I think my boy, I used to have a boy, Mark. We're still cool to this day. But he was like freestyling, and I'm like, I had one of my other buddies, PJ, and one of my other like, everybody was like, it was like the thing to do. Like, you walk down the hall, and people in the hallway just like battle rapping. You know what I mean? So you just kind of listen in, and hear people, and I'm like, I'm just thinking to myself, I think I can do that better than them. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how I felt. That's literally how I felt. So I would practice, and then like I would just battle people, and like like for like to fuck around with it. Like it was never really like serious. We would just be joking, but I was always like mad funny too. So I know what makes people laugh. Like I'm always been real funny. So
Yo, hold on. That's an interesting statement. You might not, when you use particular language, so when you say certain things, it's gonna be sexier than other things. You know what makes people laugh. Are you willing to elaborate on what you mean by that and how you know what makes people laugh?
yeah. So it's like I feel like I can know I gotta know the person, right? It's there's no cookie cutter way to make everybody laugh, right? Not everybody likes one comedian, or not everybody finds has the same sense of humor. But some people have a dark sense of humor, and you got to know when to switch that, turn that on. Some people have a real slapstick sense of humor, you know. And I think it's just adaptability. You got to be able to adapt. I think
Mm.
is probably the deeper part of that. Where I know you got to know your audience. You know what I'm saying? You got to know your audience, and yeah, no, I think a lot of it is again just always kind of like, for example, have you ever heard of like the bird like personality test? I've done it in sales before, but it was
Yeah.
really
Yeah, yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
And yeah, and that's it. There's basically four main birds, and the eagle, owl, dove, peacock, and you just got to know who you're talking to. You know what I'm saying?
Yo, that's
And you got to be able to
interesting.
adapt to that.
Yo, because everybody can like really fuck with what he's saying here. If I'm understanding correctly, it's a matter of just mapping out the base personality types you may encounter, assessing what is the room I'm fucking with, and playing to those boundaries. And why I think that's super nifty is because I watched that Bodied movie. Because, battle rap was confusing to me. I don't fully understand it. Bodied is that Eminem produced battle rap movie. And part of
Mm-hmm.
that, they have this conversation about how, in a lot of ways, if you're playing to a live audience with no footage, you want to play to the audience and treat it more like comedy. But if you're playing to YouTube, make sure you're smart, you know? Because, like, it matters so much, right? But, like, so much of it
It
turns
does.
into this game of expectation management. What's going to land? What's going to work? And if you're in person in that room, you have to make sure these people get your bars. Otherwise, you're not getting that crowd reaction. So you can come in and drop some soup. And they used one of this guy that was like a huge example of it, and the crowd just kept missing over and over again. I think they were goofing a bit on Daylight, but like in general, when the crowd doesn't understand it, they don't react to it. That's the truth about things in that in live environment. So it becomes that game. So when I hear you talking about a battling environment and leveraging comedy, because let's be real, comedy is a huge part of how you win that shit. Based on crowd reaction, it just again shows and validates what you meant earlier when you say you're real calculated. And so I think it's worth pointing that out.